So in this part we are going to discuss about meninges. As I told you in the previous part, meninges are the protective layers which cover the central nervous system or which cover the organs of central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord. So meninges are the three membranes of connective tissue and they are protective in nature and they are around the brain and spinal cord. Now in invertebrates like fishes, there is only one meninges. In singular form it is called as meninges, whereas in plural form it is called as meninges. So in fishes there is only one meninges and it is called as meninges primitiva. In the case of amphibians, reptiles and birds, there are two meninges. The first one or the innermost, that is the Arachnoid mater. It is the innermost layer. The next is the Dura Mater, that is the outermost layer. And in the case of mammals, there are three meninges or three layers. First layer is the pia mater. It is the innermost layer. It is vascular and it is made up of squamous epithelium. The second one is arachnoid mater. It is a network of collagen. And the third is Dura Mater. It is the outermost layer and it is fibrous. So these meninges, in case of invertebrates like fishes, they have only one meninges, that is called as meninges primitiva. In case of amphibians, reptiles and birds, there are two meninges. The first one is Arachnoid mater. It is the innermost layer, and the second is Dura Mater. It is the outermost layer. Whereas in the case of mammals, there are three meninges. First is the pia mater. It is the innermost layer. It is vascular and it is made up of squamous epithelium. The second is arachnoid mater. It is the network of collagen. Whereas the third is the Dura Mater. It is outermost layer and it is fibrous. So if we have to show that these meninges in the diagram, it will look like this. This is the part of central nervous system or brain. It may be brain or spinal cord. So the outermost layer, starting from the outermost layer, the outermost layer is the Dura Mater. This Dura Mater is attached to the cranium, that is, it is attached to the bones. Dura Mater, it is attached to the cranium. The second or the middle layer is the Arachnoid Mater. In between this Dura Mater and Arachnoid Mater, there is a space, there is a gap, and this space is called as Subdural Space. The space which is in between the Dura Mater and the Arachnoid Mater, this space is called as Subdural Space. After this, the innermost layer is the pia mater, and there is again a space in between the Arachnoid Mater and the pia mater. This space is called as Subarachnoid Space. The space which is in between the Arachnoid Mater and the pia mater, this space is called as Subarachnoid Space. And this subarachnoid space is filled with the Cerebrospinal Fluid. So, and this pia mater is attached to the organs, that is brain or spinal cord, whereas Dura Mater is attached to the cranium. Pia mater is attached to the CNS or brain or spinal cord. There is a gap in between Dura Mater and the Arachnoid Mater. That gap is called as Subdural Space. There is again a gap in between Arachnoid Mater and pia mater. That gap is called as Subarachnoid Space. And this subarachnoid space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. So if we have to see the actual diagram of it, it will look like this. Suppose this is the brain. As we know, brain, the surface of the brain is not smooth. It is rough surface. It has ridges and depressions in it. So these are the ridges or the depressions. These are the ridges and these are the depressions in the surface of the brain. Here this red colored part, that is the pia mater. It is attached to the organ, that is brain. This gap in between pia mater and the arachnoid matter, this is filled with cerebrospinal fluid, and that gap is called as subarachnoidal space. This blue colored part you see here, that is the arachnoid matter. And this black colored fibrous part which I have drawn, that is the dura mater. In between this dura mater and the arachnoid matter, there is a space, and that space is called as subdural space. Now, this arachnoid matter shows some projections on it. These projections, they enter inside the dura mater, and here in the dura mater, near these projections, there are the network of blood capillaries, and these projections are dipped into that network. Now, these projections of arachnoid matter, these projections are called as arachnoidal villi. So, here these are the three meninges which are present outside, which cover the brain and the spinal cord. The innermost layer which is attached to the actual organ is called as the pia mater. After that, there is a space. That space is called as subarachnoidal space. This subarachnoidal space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. After that, the middle layer, that is the arachnoidal matter. Arachnoid matter. This arachnoid matter shows some projections. These projections are called as arachnoidal villi. And after arachnoid matter, there is a space or gap. That space is called as subdural space. And then the outermost layer is there, that is dura mater. This dura mater is attached to the cranium. There is no gap in between cranium and this dura mater. They both are attached. Whereas there is no gap in between the organ, that is brain, and the pia mater. These both are also attached to each other. So the three meninges, if seen, they are if we see them, they will look like this. So here these projections which arise from the arachnoid matter, they enter inside the dura mater in the network of capillaries. Or here there is a network of capillaries which supply blood. So these are the three meninges which cover the central nervous system. First, the innermost is the pia mater, which is actually attached to the central nervous system. The middle one is arachnoid matter, and the outermost is the dura mater. In between dura mater and arachnoid matter, there is a space called as subdural space. And again, in between arachnoid matter and pia mater, there is a space that is called as subarachnoid space. This subarachnoid space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Next, we will discuss about cerebrospinal fluid. This cerebrospinal fluid is present in the subarachnoidal space, which is in between the arachnoid matter and the pia matter. So this cerebrospinal fluid, it is a lymph-like extracellular fluid, and it is secreted by choroid plexuses of pia mater. This cerebrospinal fluid, it is a lymph-like extracellular fluid. The meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid act as shock absorber, and it protects the brain and the spinal cord from mechanical injuries. So the meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid, it acts as a shock absorber, and it also protects the brain and the spinal cord from the mechanical injuries. The CSF or cerebrospinal fluid maintains constant pressure inside the cranium. It helps in exchange of nutrients, wastes, in between the blood and the brain tissue, and it also helps in supply of oxygen to the brain. So this cerebrospinal fluid, it maintains a constant pressure inside the cranium, and it helps in exchange of nutrients and wastes between the blood and brain tissue. It also supplies, or it also helps in supply of oxygen to the brain. The cerebrospinal fluid is slightly alkaline and it has a specific gravity of 1.005. A total of 100 to 120 cubic centimeters of cerebrospinal fluid is present in and around the central nervous system. So, this cerebrospinal fluid, it is slightly alkaline in nature and it has a specific gravity of 1.005. Also, total of 100 to 120 cubic centimeters of this cerebrospinal fluid, it is present in and around the central nervous system. Cerebrospinal fluid is continuously generated by the ependymal cells which are in the lining of the ventricles and central canal, and it is simultaneously drained out of the brain into the bloodstream. So this cerebrospinal fluid, it is continuously generated by the ependymal cells which are present in the lining of ventricles and the central canal of the brain, and it is simultaneously drained out of the brain into the bloodstream.